big question I want to know the answer to. Does one dominant win erase all the doubts that were floating around the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their place as a true power in the CFL today? The Toronto Argonauts' first loss of the season, combined with big questions about the health of their QB1, Chad Kelly, has reshuffled the league power rankings as we enter week 10. Great to see everybody. Welcome inside Bonfire Midweek. My name is Darrin Bauming, and as we always do, we bring in the man, Zach Schnitzer, who joins us from destinations unknown. Schnitzy, how you doing, man? Where are you? What's going on?
Where am I indeed? Well, I'm in the southeast region of the White Shell on a
Okay.
beautiful lake known as West Hawk, baby. Just gorgeous out here. I'm sitting on the sun porch. My cousin Dickie is watching in the other sun porch. Yeah, just very grateful to be here. And my daughter and I are here for the week while my wife and son are at home. You know, they got important things to do at work and preschool, so we're just living it up, buddy.
That's awesome. That is awesome. It is lake season right now. So for everybody that's able to get out to a cabin or a beach or go camping or jump in the trailer or whatever it is, good on you. And if you can then also take in some Canadian football, that's a pretty great summer to me. I'll be honest. I spent a lot of my formative years at West Hawk Lake. My grandparents had this big, long trailer. It was like a 1952 Champion trailer. It was bubblegum pink with black and silver. Oh, like you couldn't miss the thing. But now that it is gone, I miss the thing. I miss those times out at West Hawk Lake. Beautiful Canadian Shield country out there. And really, if you're in the sandy lands of the West or the Shield of the East or the Inner Lake of the North of Winnipeg or wherever you go, Ontario, Saskatchewan, there's lots of different places that really is, a little bit of Manitoba, a little bit of Canadian culture, Winnipeg culture right there. So great that you're able to join us here on Bonfire Midweek. What a crazy week in the CFL. It really was. And we got a lot to get to on the program. We are going to go around the league and take a look back at CFL Week 9. A lot of those results that have really brought about a lot of news and things that are changing in the CFL. We'll get into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, what I saw at practice on Monday. Today's practice on Tuesday was closed. Tomorrow, it's already time. It's walkthrough day in Edmonton, and then they take on the Elks on Thursday night. So that means Chris Welby and I will have Game Day Winnipeg, our pregame show as we always do the day before the game. Join us live tomorrow. That is Wednesday at 3 o'clock, right after Winnipeg Sports Talk. And then Zach, you'll join me from your beautiful perch in the White Shell Provincial Park for Game Day After Dark and our post-game coverage here on Bonfire Sports. Before we get into CFL Week 9, and of course, we're going to look ahead to Week 10, make our picks for SIA.com/bonfire. And everybody out there can see the games upcoming for Week 10 up on the screen right now, but we'll look back at Week 9 in a second. Anything that jumps out to you? Have you settled down, Zach, from following the 50 burger by the Bombers?
Dude, when you eat a 50 burger, it keeps you full for days, right?
No doubt.
I am still full and walking around fully satiated, fat, and happy, my friend. Um, yeah, the question you ask is the big question, right? And I'm going to do that in my sober second thought, but I'll ask it, we can ask it now too. Did the Bombers make enough of a statement to say that they're the Grey Cup favorites again? Are they back on the pedestal
Yeah.
as number one? Or do they have to beat Toronto? You talk about around the league. Toronto's an interesting team that was pounding the crap out of everybody, including BC.
Mm-hmm.
They put up, I think, 45 on BC. But then Chad Kelly goes down and they drop one to the Stamps. So the whole, just because your QB1 goes down doesn't necessarily mean you should drop one. But they didn't look very inspired against Calgary. So I I don't know. I have to see more from Toronto because they scare me, but they only put up 7 on a Stamps team that was kind of circling the drain, buddy.
Yeah. No, even before Chad Kelly went down, I didn't think they were playing their best football, to your point. But hey, let's get into it. And I'm glad you started there. CFL Week 9, and it all started in Toronto, or pardon me, in Calgary. The Toronto Argonauts on the road, their unbeaten record. Here, we'll zoom in a bit here. So it ended up being Cameron Dukes, the number 2 quarterback, who ended up playing most of the game. Pardon the glitches in the software here, but really the Argos and Stamps played a pretty even game, but Calgary took advantage of their opportunities. I don't know if there is a better defensive tackle in the CFL today than this man right here, Mike Rose. He had a sack, I think he nearly had 2, but he's got 6 on the season. Calgary's defense is legit. They are the reason the Stampeders are, able to be where they are in the CFL standings. I wouldn't count them out yet, but they're right on the verge. What an absolutely huge win over the Argos this week.
Well, yeah, I mean the Stamps are I mean we were kind of joking that maybe there would be an Eastern crossover this year because the Stamps, the Riders, and the Elks were so poor. But um, yeah, who is going to be third place of the West Division, Darren? It's fascinating.
It really is fascinating. It is. And I don't want to jump ahead, but we'll look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders 26-24 win at home in a second. But the third game on the slate in week 9 was the Alouettes in Hamilton to take on the Ticats. It was the third quarter. It was healthy, like the healthy amount of the game had gone by, and the Ticats were in control. They were holding on to the lead. Cody Fajardo, he's kind of the same quarterback we've come to know in being a little bit mistake prone, and but at the same time, dynamic enough to make some big plays. Montreal's defense, as I talk about the Calgary Stampeders defense, Montreal's defense is damn good. Damn good. And to me, the teams that won this week in the Alouettes, in the Rough Riders, in the Stampeders, and of course we'll get to the Blue Bombers 50 burger in a second. But those teams that won this past week, they did it with their defense. Saskatchewan's pass rush we'll get to in a second, but Montreal did an outstanding job keeping a young quarterback in Taylor Powell at bay. And following this game, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Zach, they announced a coaching change, 2 coaching changes this past week in the CFL, and it is offensive coordinator of the Ticats. Why am I blanking?
I don't know. We were talking about him earlier. Tommy
Condell.
buddy.
Sorry. Gosh. Tommy Condell will no longer, the team announced that they've mutually agreed to part ways, which is the diplomatic way of relieving someone of their duties or firing them. So Tommy Condell, very, very good, experienced, strong, smart offensive mind in the Canadian Football League. He probably won't be without work for long. Maybe Edmonton, because that was the other coaching change. We'll get to that in a second. Yes, Edmonton did make a coaching change, everybody, but no, it wasn't Chris Jones. So Tommy Condell is out, and Scott Milanovich is the new offensive coordinator of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Whether Bo comes back sooner rather than later, he's in a boot. They showed him during the game, watching the game in the boot with his family up in the suites. We'll have to see, but the Ticats season really is hanging by a thread, Zach. Scott Milanovich, to me, this is a huge upgrade for the Ticats, because Milanovich is a proven winner, both as a coordinator and a head coach. He has Grey Cups in both capacities, time in the NFL, now back up here in Canada, and the new OC and play caller in Hamilton. You think it'll help?
Only if they start running the freaking ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Why? I think that was one of the big knocks on Tommy Condell is he didn't run the ball, and then they spent all this money on James Butler. Well, first of all, in the CFL, you shouldn't be spending a lot of money on a running back. It's a passing league.
If they're not Canadian.
If they're not Canadian, good point. But if you do spend that kind of money, why aren't you running the freaking ball? Especially when you have your second and third string quarterbacks. It takes the pressure off them. The old linemen don't like to pass block the entire game. What do you do? Like, what is the thought process there? Now, I'm not saying that's why he was let go. Obviously, the results spoke for themselves, but I don't know, man. Like, you have I don't think an OC should be on the hot seat if he's having to run out his second and mostly his third string quarterback. They should be giving him a bit of grace, but instead they give him the coup de grace, right? Like,
Now,
and
I'll just
I
ask,
think somewhat is
what is the
because
coup
he
de
wasn't
grace?
running the
What does
ball.
that mean?
Oh, like the finishing move.
Okay.
Cut, you're done. You're done. But like, why did you get James Butler if you have a young quarterback like Taylor Powell or even Matt Schiltz and you want to take pressure off a young quarterback and you want to make your offensive line happy, run the ball. You don't have to run it 50% of the time like the Bombers do, but
Not quite
run it a little
50%.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I hear what you're
you
saying.
know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Bombers' MO is to pound the rock.
Yeah.
So, and I remember that last year too. The Ticats just never ran the ball. They'd almost have a sort of, I don't know, ad hoc running game by throwing a bunch of screens and hitches and things like that. But you still have to run the ball sometimes.
Well, the Blue
Teams that don't
Bombers used
run
to
the
do
ball,
that. The Blue Bombers used to do that when Paul LaPolice was the offensive coordinator. And I remember the media asking questions of Lapo saying, like, well, how come you're not running the ball more? Well, we run these screenplays and these 1 yard
right?
hitches and things to the flats. It is a pseudo run game. But a traditional run game keeps the box. That is where the D linemen and the linebackers are. It keeps that box near the line of scrimmage much, much more honest. So, I mean,
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
breath of fresh air. What do they say? New broom sweeps clean. Maybe this will help the Ticats straighten some things out in a year where they are hosting the Grey Cup. Quickly, let's look at the Redblacks and Riders. It was the final game of CFL Week 9, and the Riders, to me, just hung in. So did the Red Blacks. I think it was you know what? Now that I think about it, it was a pretty evenly fought game. But the Riders just made some big plays, and whether that's home field advantage being the difference, that could very well be. How about this? Mason Fine goes for 296 yards passing, no interceptions through the touchdown. That's 62% for 300 yards. Not a bad day at the office for the Riders' number 2 quarterback, but it was their defense, Zach, that really, really impressed me. Anthony Lanier, does he go by junior? No, he goes by the second. Anthony Lanier, the second, 5 total tackles, 3 sacks. He was
Hmm.
an absolute menace in this game, and it helped the Riders get back on the winning track with a 26-24 win at home.
That game to me, DB, was all about coaching mistakes from Bob Dice. He got aggressive on third down, right? You like that. And then he got uber conservative on third down. Like pick your poison, buddy. You don't kick a field goal when you're third and goal from the opponent's 1 yard line. And you give them an entire minute left to kick a field goal. He went for it. He went for it like on what was it on the Riders 20 on third down and missed it. And then I think he got scared, and then he kicked the field goal on their 1 yard line. Even if of course you're going to make the field goal, you go up by one, but you're giving the Riders a whole minute left, and all they have to do is march, to what your 40-yard line to have a chance to walk off the game, and that's
Well,
exactly what they did.
All they have to do is march. I think you said it, and I'll play devil's advocate here. As much as it's to me, it's not even the devil. It is. I think, I think it was the smarter play. Bob Dice did spoke about some of the coaching decisions after the game, and was clear he did not regret going for that field goal on 3rd and 1 from the one. It puts you ahead. It's only 1 minute. I know it's enough time, but it's not a minute and a half where a team can, plod along, let's say 2 minutes, that sort of thing, where you can slowly move the chains, mix in a run. It's a much more challenging march, a much more challenging drive when you only have the opportunity to really use 35, 45 seconds. And that's really what that's really what Saskatchewan needed. The field goal at the end of the game, I'm just pulling it up here. The field goal was a 54-yard attempt, and it was good. That was a 32-second drive, which left 26 seconds left. So, a minute is enough time to do that. But if you miss from 3rd and 1, 3rd and goal from the one, if you miss, you don't get in, the game is over. The game is over. If you kick the field goal, you have the lead and the game is still going on, and you give your team a chance to win that game with the lead. So I don't hate the call.
I don't, yeah, those are fair points, but I'm not even sure the game's over. If there's a minute left in the Canadian Football League and the clock stops under 3 minutes, the Riders are backed up on their own 1 yard line, up by 2 points on their 1 yard line.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to take any chances. They're probably going to run the ball a couple times. Clock stops, then they're going to punt it, and you're going to be in good field position again. I would say the game isn't over. You're probably going to have 30 seconds left to try another shot at it, to kick a field goal to win it. And this time it would be to kick a field goal to win the game, not leaving any time on the clock. So I don't know, man. Like, wouldn't there be enough time
to get back for the Red?
Yeah.
I mean, Crum took a sack, right? It was Micah Johnson with a 5-yard sack on 2nd and 4. Shaq Evans caught a 6-yard pass on 1st down, 21 seconds left. Then with 9 seconds left, Crum gets sacked. So, and that was the ball game. But look, it's the whole hindsight is 2020, and the whole thing. If the Redblacks found a way, not even found a way, if the Redblacks stopped the Saskatchewan Roughriders from getting into field goal range, and they just got into field goal range, 54 yards. That's a long field goal. That is a long field goal.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Ask any Rider fan what they think about Brett Lowther at times. Okay. It's not like he's Justin Medlock or Sergio Castillo or Sean White out there. Okay. And I think if Saskatchewan wasn't able to get into field goal range and the Ottawa Redblacks win this game, a lot of people said, smart play, gets the lead, because if he didn't, the game is over. Do you understand? Like, if going into that 3rd and 1 from the one, okay, it was Jackson Bennett ran for a yard on 1st-and-goal from the 7, and then he ran again for 5 yards that got them to the 1. So 2 consecutive runs that got them 6 out of the 7 yards they needed. And then it's 3rd-and-1. You could say, well, yeah, just do it, right? But the Saskatchewan Roughriders have arguably one of the top 3, I would say top 3 defensive lines in the CFL. That's a big gamble to put the whole game on one play. Big gamble when you can win by taking the lead and then stopping the other team from marching the field. I don't.
Yeah, but you said.
Okay.
Well, you said you can win by by kicking the field goal. You can win, but you're giving the other team an entire minute. You can you're not winning. You can win the game by getting it in from the 1 at that point. The chances of the Riders getting a touchdown to go ahead, if you score the touchdown there, is very small.
Well, yo, no, no doubt. No doubt. If you're able to score. But let's just say it's a 50-50 proposition, right? And let's hear you in the live chat, everybody out there. Chime in. Would you have gone for it? Do you agree with Zach or do you agree with me? Let's
They
say it's a
probably agree with
50-50. Let's
me.
say it's a
Come on.
50-50 proposition, okay? And you're taking a 50% chance whether you're going to win or lose on a 3rd and 1 from the 1. Okay? You got a 50-50 chance. If you kick the field goal, that's like 99% or 98% or whatever it is, and then you've got multiple plays to stop the other team. You're not leaving it down to one flip of the coin. That's why I
But
think
it isn't even one
it was
flip.
a better decision.
But even if they don't make it, I still think they would probably get the ball back. They'd have another shot.
Well, they did get the ball back. And what happened? 6-yard catch and then a sack. So,
Yeah. Although they were back on their own 20-yard line, so that changes the play calling. But yeah, we'll see what the Firestarters have to say. I
yeah, I
can't
love
even
it.
see the chat because I'm on my phone here. What are
Well,
people saying, Darren? Oh,
Peter
why
says
am I even
Zach is
asking? Of course
right.
they agree.
Yeah, Peter says Zach is Peter D. What's going on, Pete? Says Zach is right. Tao Zen says touchdown. Well, this is a good question. Scott Westman asks, speaking of calls, DB, what's the best wing flavor at Shannon's? Can I be honest with you? I would get dip, get salt and pepper, and then the dip. Get your favorite dips. I think uh,
Ooh.
that's the way to go. Field goal was the right call, says Scott Roger. Was also the right call earlier to instead of going for it. Really, everybody's divided on it. Take the
All
points and
right.
believe in your defense, says Tico Napoli. What's up, Pyro? Yeah. One Bird says, agree with Zach. It's more than a 50-50 chance from the one. It's the CFL. Play to win, not play to lose. Same as Bombers running it versus Ottawa. Agree with Zach. Well, if you play to win, then play to lose, don't you want to take the lead? You're
Hmm.
certainly going to take the lead by kicking the field goal. Certainly. You're not certainly going to get in on 3rd and 1 from the 1. Just saying.
Well, maybe he should have kicked the field goal when they were on, the 20-yard line. Then they win the game
Yeah.
instead of going for it. But hey, we've beaten this to death.
Yeah.
We're
Dylan
not here to
Spicer says,
talk
I
about
would
the.
have, if missed the first down at the 1-yard line, trust the D safety and tie game. Well, no, it was 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1 from the 1. Craig Smith,
Third and
who
one
knows his
from the
football. The problem was
gun.
kicking it off to one of the best returners who brought it out to the 50. Yeah. That was probably the decision I think deserves more criticism than.
Well, that's what Bob Dice said too, right,
Yeah,
Darren? He
that's
even
right.
admitted he he
Yeah.
he cared more about kicking it to Walford, and like, why wouldn't they have kicked it away from him? I don't know.
Well, we know a lot of our most of our viewers are Bombers fans, and they probably care more about where they're going to be taking in the game on Thursday night. How about Shannon's Irish Pub? They are open and have game day specials, food and drink for every Winnipeg Jets game, home and away. Every Winnipeg Blue Bombers game, home and away. 21 beers on tap. Awesome food. I'm telling you, the salt and pepper wings, and then you mix in some, like, the dips, do that. These are not just toss frozen wings into the fryer and they, land on your table overcooked and crunchy. These wings are awesome. Try them out. shannonsirishpub.ca. And hey, after the Bomber game on Thursday, you're at work, you're feeling like, I want to get the weekend started. Shannon's is now open for lunch on Fridays. So get your weekend started early. If you stayed up a little late on Thursday night watching the Bombers in Edmonton and then watching Game Day After Dark here on Bonfire Sports, pop into Shannon's, get your weekend started early, and have a second long weekend, if you will. Get it going on Friday. Big thanks to Shannon's, as always. Well, that leaves us to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Zach, and no doubt Bomber fans are very, very pleased and feeling good. All those kind of warm and tingly good feelings following a dominant 50-14 win against the BC Lions this past week. Did this erase all the doubts in your mind? that maybe Winnipeg isn't as dominant a team as they have been the last number of years?
I didn't erase all the doubts for a couple of reasons, but I'll get into that in a second. But it certainly made me feel more comfortable, more confident that the team is going in the right direction. Um, I think if they would have lost twice in a row to BC, even if it was a close game, I think then you're looking at, this team is probably not going to finish first in the West, and they're going to have a Western semifinal, right? They're going to have to play a one game to get to the West final. Then you have to win two playoff games to get to the Grey Cup. And I think it would have it would have strengthened the narrative of this team being on the back nine. Blowing out a team like a Lions with a historically good defense up to that point really made a statement that this team isn't going anywhere. But do I still think they're the Grey Cup favorites? Well, the Argos dropped one against the Stamps, but that was without Chad Kelly.
Yep.
So the Argos were looking dominant, and they beat us in the Grey Cup.
Mm-hmm.
With Chad Kelly. So I still need to see how the Bombers play against the Argos. And I guess the other thing, and there was a great article on Three Down Nation that I reposted today by Ben Grant, who broke down, why the Bombers won that game and what kind of adjustments they made. And his point was, it's hard to beat a team two times in a row in the CFL,
Yeah.
right? They beat us 30-6, and then Winnipeg poured over the film, especially Buck Pierce, looking for ways to protect Zach Schnitzer so they wouldn't give up 7 sacks. And they used different protection schemes and they used different alignments to expose the Lions. And does that mean the Lions are a bad team or that they played poorly? Not necessarily. It just means, you watched the film and you found ways to exploit them. Why would the Lions change what they were going to do? They kicked the crap out of us 30-6. They're going to keep doing what they're doing so we can stop them. Well, the Bombers stopped them from the very beginning. That offense was executing at an extremely high level.
Mm-hmm.
They were backed up on their own 5-yard line on their first drive, and Collaros throws like a 50-yard haymaker to Kenny Lawler. Next play, throws a 70-yard touchdown to Dalton Schoen. This is a BC team that had given up 2 touchdowns through the air through 7 weeks. And our 2 first possessions, we doubled that on them. Like the Bombers were just executing at an extremely high level. So it doesn't mean that the Bombers are dominant and that BC sucks, as much as I love that chant. You just have 2 good teams and 2 good coordinators going at it. And I got to see how the rubber match plays out, right? You got to see the rubber match. You got to see how the Bombers play against the Argos. But I'm definitely not as concerned
Yeah.
as I was before, to answer your question.
And just so you know, I was listening to you, but I had to throw up
Oh,
the
I
50
know.
burgers in the lineup because it's just
I love it.
one of the most
Darrin,
fun
I know you
things.
multitask.
Oh, you know me.
I know you're an expert. You're an expert multitask. You could be eating wings at Shannon's, planning the show, I don't know, calling your mom. You could be doing all that at once, and and still I wouldn't feel ignored
Yeah, for better or
if I was
worse.
sitting there.
For better or worse.
Or better. Where does this burger thing, the 40 burger, the 50 burger, there's no
50
30
burger.
burger.
No. No, those aren't burgers. Those are nibbles. You get the whole burger. You get a 50 burger. 50. That's what it is.
Where I'd be fascinated to know where that idiom comes from. Who
Me
came
too.
up with 50 burger? It
It's a good question.
works. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it doesn't work. A big fat greasy 50 burger.
What do you think
Love it.
about this comment from James in the Peg watching live on YouTube? What's going on, James? Good to see you, and good to see everybody else. Really chatting it up in the live chat today. That's awesome. James says Blue Bombers realize they're too complacent and had to beat down BC. Maybe, yeah, maybe James. I think that 30-6 loss was just lack of focus. I wouldn't call it complacency. I would just say, they didn't prepare properly. And by that, I don't mean, like, oh, they didn't game plan or they didn't practice. Of course they did. I don't think they prepared mentally. I don't think they went in with a sharpened focus on performing at their best, because they didn't. They did not play their best at all. Nobody can argue that the Bombers played their best game in that 30-6 loss. They definitely played their best game in that 50-14 win this past week. Did BC play their best game? No. Did BC have their QB1? No. You can talk all day about who was in and who was out, and they got Dom Rhymes back, and the Bombers didn't have Kenny Lawler and Kyrie Wilson that first game. They didn't have Winston Rose back in week 3, sure. But in the end, it comes down to who shows up and who puts it on the line. And Winnipeg just came out not just throwing haymakers, they landed the haymakers, but
Landing, yeah.
They came out strategic. And I feel like they really, really just executed on everything they wanted to do. It was outstanding.
Well, my cousin Dickie and I were talking right before the show, we were talking about how Collaros was like he was hitting Schoen and Kenny Lawler on those long bombs in stride.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly placed balls.
Yep.
And I liken it. I liken it to when in baseball when you're playing against a pitcher who's just on their game, and there's just nothing you can do. Like you can't stop them. And I think when a quarterback like Zach Collaros is executing at that level, like credit all the schemes and Brady Oliveira blocking for him and putting in Liam Dobson and having max protection, you still have to hit the throws. And Collaros was hitting them perfectly in stride.
Well, like
you can have great coverage on a right.
Yeah, like I was sharing with you on Game Day After Dark, the ability Zach Collaros has to put the perfect amount of touch on those deep throws. And I think it was Marshall Ferguson dug up some numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but on passes of 20 or more yards this year, like in the air, 20 or more yards, he's perfect. No interceptions. I think he's 9 for 9. It's
wow.
really, really outstanding how good Zach Collaros is at those deep throws. And what an absolute weapon. What an absolute weapon he is. You can say, well, Kenny Lawler's this, or Dalton Schoen is that, or Nick Dembski is a star. All true. But you got to set it up. You got to get the ball there. Zach Collaros, he's just outstanding. I like this. James in the Peg with another good comment. Zach Collaros is our Anthony Calvillo. How do you feel about that?
I think it's apt. I mean, Collaros is probably never going to put up 70,000 yards like
he missed
Calvillo
a big chunk of time. He's missed some time. That's tough.
Yeah, but he's a back-to-back MOP. He's the best player in the league. Maybe not what you think with your Willie Jefferson pick, but he's a phenomenal player. He's a perennial all-star. He's a back-to-back MOP. He's won 3 Grey Cups, 2 with the Bombers. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say maybe he's a better big game player than AC was. I don't know. Yet to be determined. I dug up stats on him in playoffs and Grey Cup, and he's not actually that great in playoffs and Grey Cup, but he's got 2 Grey Cups with the Bombers. So what am I saying?
He did play in the East. Just saying.
Yeah.
But no, Calvillo, all timer.
Yeah. Well, one of the best. Maybe Collaros. Couldn't you say Collaros is an all timer?
He's getting there.
Is he a Hall of Fame guy?
He's getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to pick it today, like, is he a Hall of Famer in 10 years? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's a tough thing to do. I like this question from Jamie, who's watching live on Facebook. What's going on, Jamie? Good to see you. How do you think Trey Ford is going to do with the Elks this week? Bombers, Elks in Edmonton Thursday night. and Trey Ford gets the start. So this is the other coaching change we saw in the CFL. Is Tommy Condell out and Scott Milanovich promoted to offensive coordinator in Hamilton. The other, they did not fire Stephen McAdoo. They demoted him, and he is now an assistant coach on the defensive side of the ball. And Jarius Jackson will now be the play caller for the Edmonton Elks offense. And suddenly, Taylor Cornelius isn't the number one, nor is Taylor Cornelius the number two. Taylor Cornelius is the number 3 quarterback. He will run short yardage on Edmonton's offense. That leaves Jarrett Dagey as the number 2, and the Canadian second-year quarterback, Trey Ford, is the number 1 this week. He is a smaller quarterback. He is incredibly athletic, incredibly agile and quick. He is capable of making all the throws. He is inexperienced. He is obviously young, but this guy is built with, I don't know, speed in his veins. He has juice. So don't look past the Edmonton Elks because they're starting a young quarterback this week against the Blue Bombers. Trey Ford can beat you, and he will beat you. So Jarius Jackson, Trey Ford, a new mix on offense. Edmonton still winless, of course, but coming off the bye week, while Winnipeg coming off a very emotionally high win, or at least I would say the fans an emotionally high win. How will this game shake out? What I did find interesting, as I mentioned the emotional high, Zach, did you know this? After the game, when you and I were firing up Game Day After Dark in the post game, as we always do here on the channel, I talked to people who were inside the Blue Bombers locker room after the game. You know what they said? They said it was not a big, exuberant locker room. It was very measured, very businesslike. They came away with a amazing win, 50-14, and it was great job, good work. Let's go back to work. I think that speaks a lot about the mettle, the mentality, I should say, of this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team, that they can have a huge win. And from the outside looking in, we're erasing doubts, and we're talking about, being atop the power rankings and being the Grey Cup favorite again and getting redemption and revenge, all of that. But inside that room, that was a win. We're going to enjoy it. And we're going to move on to the next. They are not drinking their own. They're not drinking their own
No,
Kool-Aid right now.
they don't read their own press clippings, right? They're a lunch pail blue collar team who just puts their nose to the grind and goes to work, right? All of those cliches you want to say, and I'm actually thrilled to hear that it wasn't super exuberant because this is a trap game. I know we're going to get to this preview this game
Let's
in a
do it.
minute, but
Let's do it.
I mean, do it now. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
let's talk about it.
it's a bit of a trap game. A big emotional win at home against your, Western arch rival at this point. It's not the Riders or the Stamps, um, and it's not the Elks. So they beat their arch rival in BC, um, and then they go into a place where this team has nothing to lose. Their backs against the wall. They have a new sort of a new coaching setup there. They have a different, new, exciting quarterback coming in. Um, They don't have a lot of film on Trey Ford. I watched Trey Ford in the preseason. So did you. He could be electric. He could beat you with his legs like nobody's
Yeah.
business. He can juke you out of your socks. And Winnipeg has been vulnerable to running quarterbacks. They were in the Grey Cup to Chad Kelly. They were to Dustin Crum in the famous Crumback that I, of course, coined.
You did. Full credit.
I did. Well, thank you. So I'm a little concerned, but I'll tell you this: I'm not concerned that the Bombers are going to be coming in overconfident. I think I mean Ed Tate wrote an article about it this week. They don't look at the record. The
Yeah.
numbers mean nothing. It's let's go 1-0 this week against a good opponent. And O'Shea always says it. It's hard to win in the CFL, and he's right. It's hard to beat another professional football team when there's only 9 teams and there's such parity and the coaches all know each other. But
Yeah.
I would still, am I going to pick the Bombers to win? Of course I am.
And we're
Do
going
I
to get
think
into
they'll
our
win by,
picks.
yeah. Do I think they'll win by 12? I don't know. We'll talk about it, but
Yeah, we'll get
that's
into
a
our
big
picks for
line.
SIA.com/bonfire in just a second. To your point, Zach, uh, prior to the Lions Bombers game last week, Winnipeg's 50-14 win, Winnipeg had a bye. Prior to that bye, they beat the Edmonton Elks 28-14 at IG Field. Okay. This game this coming week will be in Edmonton. That game in Winnipeg was 6-6 at halftime. And I think the score 28-14 flatters the Blue Bombers. They did not play well in that game. They did not play well in the game before. That was the Crumback, as you mentioned. They were not playing good football at all. The bye week reset everything, and they came out and played incredibly strong football. They're healthy. The injury report, as we're 2 days into the week, just Jamal Parker on the injury report, and that's because he missed last game because of a non-football related issue. That's all the information we have on that. So everybody that is injured with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now is on the 6-game injured list or ready to come off the 6-game injured list. Which is very, very positive. Edmonton is now coming off a bye with the change, as we mentioned, at quarterback and at offensive coordinator or play caller, as they're calling Jarius Jackson there now. I think if this is a quote unquote trap game, if it is a trap game, it's not because the Blue Bombers will go in there, smelling their own roses, or not being focused, or reading their own press clippings, or drinking whatever. It's because Edmonton will present something Winnipeg is not expecting, and they will game plan. They'll put together a game plan that can beat Winnipeg. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But that's the possibility. That is always there. That's why Winnipeg is preparing and taking the Edmonton Elks as seriously as any other team. Mike O'Shea said as much at practice on Monday, that they're a good football team with good football players. And like you said, Zach, it's hard to win in pro football. It's hard to win in the CFL. Winnipeg is going to take this game seriously. And, we're going to see a good football game one way or another.
Well, you talk about practice. Let's get into that for a second if we can, Darren. What did you see on the only, open practice of the week?
Yeah. Well, I'm not allowed, rightfully so, to divulge, details of what we see, but we can talk about who was practicing and who was not. Desmond Lawrence has been on the 6-game injured list for 5 weeks. He is now permitted to practice, and he was a partial participant on that one open practice on Monday. Great to see Sandy at practice, by the way. Hi, Sandy. I don't know if you see. There's your mug. Keeping the shine on it.
Not
And
her
letting
face, her mug.
pardon me?
Not her face, her actual mug.
Her mug. Yeah, not mug
Yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Stainless steel
no,
mug.
not her mug.
Yeah. But other than that, Winnipeg looked unchanged from what we saw against the BC Lions. I don't anticipate any major changes on either side of the football. Now, might they tweak some things with, they dressed 2 fullbacks last week. Will they shift that and, maybe dress another defensive lineman? Could be Miles Fox at defensive tackle. Maybe. Could they bring Jamal Parker back on the roster this week? Maybe. Will they make a change at kick returner? I don't think so. I still think it will be Greg McCrae handling things until Janarian Grant is healthy and ready to return. No pun intended. But overall,
That's a good pun.
oh, come on. That was an error. That was a fluke. But all things seem very stable in Blue Bomber land right now, and fans can knock on wood coming off that big win and now going into Edmonton. Let's look ahead. Edmonton, then the following Friday, In Calgary are the Blue Bombers. They return home on Thursday, August 24th against the Montreal Alouettes, who are playing pretty good football right now. And then it is the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl home and home series against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, a trip to Hamilton in mid-September, and then Winnipeg's second of 3 bye weeks in late September. Then I know we're looking ahead. We can. The team won't, but we can. Then it is those huge back-to-back games, bookended by the second and third bye of the season, where Winnipeg goes to Toronto and then, or pardon me, is at IG Field against Toronto, home against Toronto, and then at BC. Those 2 games, huge on implications for how the final regular season standings will shake out. But task at hand is Edmonton. And that brings us to our picks. Zach, are you ready to get into it for SIA.com/bonfire? And we'll look at the picks, and then we'll look back at our picks from the last number of
Yeah,
weeks.
you finally tabulated them. I thought you were just gaming me there and just hesitating to tabulate them because you knew I'd be far ahead, but I don't know that that's the case.
Bombers 12-point favorites in Edmonton on
Yeah.
Thursday night. That line has actually come down, I believe, when you were on SIA.com. Okay, so it hasn't moved for SIA. It's always been at 12, but it's been as high as 13.5, I think, on some other sports books. But don't worry about other sports books. 12 is a better number if you're a Bombers bettor. That's for sure. Of course, do it responsibly. But do you like Winnipeg at 12 points, Zach?
I do. Here's the thing. I don't think that the Bombers are going to be fooled by a running quarterback again. I think they're going to put a spy on Trey Ford. They're going to have someone watching him. Do I think Trey Ford will still be able to run a little bit on him? Yeah, because he's that good of an athlete, and they don't have a ton of film on him. But I do think that they'll put a spy on him. I think they will scheme appropriately, and they're firing on all cylinders. And I think that bye week, like you said, gave them a reset. I think they take it by 12 or more.
Yeah. Well, and I'll remind people, when you sign up for SIA, go to SIA.com/bonfire. And with that exclusive link, you will help us here on the channel and get yourself a very tidy 100% bonus. You can find all the details on SIA.com/bonfire, but that's how you sign up. Over under set at 45. I don't mind the over in this because I do think, you mentioned not a lot of film on Trey Ford. The Bombers just don't have a lot of film on Jarius Jackson as a play caller. I think that's almost as dangerous,
Right.
if not more,
Good point. Yeah.
than Trey Ford and lack of film. So 45, I think Winnipeg is capable of scoring 30. If you think Edmonton can tack on another couple touchdowns, you'd be in that range of hitting 45. And then the money lines, first half money line, a lot healthier at 400 versus the 650 on the entire game. If we go back, how do I do this? Can we go back? Here we go. The second game, Friday night, the Saskatchewan Roughriders at the Montreal Alouettes. Montreal, 4.5-point favorites in this game. And I think this is a game I took Montreal to cover
Hmm.
4.5. They're playing good football right now. The defense is playing outstanding. I think Cody Fajardo, while he does scare me a little bit, and while Saskatchewan might have a little bit of a book on the quarterback, as well as their head coach and offensive coordinator, Jason Moss, it is a short week for Saskatchewan. They're coming off a very hard-fought battle at home. Montreal, a little bit more rested, playing early in the week last week, and then again early in CFL Week 10. So I like Montreal to cover the 4.5. Calgary at BC, I find a very intriguing game, Zach. 6-point favorites are the BC Lions at this juncture. Will Vernon Adams be the starter? We don't know yet.
And we don't know even if sorry, Darren, we don't even know if Dane Evans is going to be the backup because he was knocked out of the game
Right.
against the Bombers with that sternum injury. That and Big Hill crushed him.
So what you can do is watch the news closely, and as you see, the line has gone from 5.5 to 6. for the Stampede, or pardon me. Yeah, it's gone
For
from
the BC.
5.5 to 6 for the BC Lions as a favorite, because I don't know, maybe they were getting a lot of the early action. Things have definitely moved out, but you can watch the news, watch, Twitter or whatever it might be, um, on the health of Dane Evans, on the health of Vernon Adams Jr. I get the feeling VA is probably going to be back. He did dress as a backup in Winnipeg, so probably close. It's been about 3.5 weeks since he went down to injury. And they didn't think it would be that long. So, watch the news and see what develops, and maybe you can find yourself some value on that game. The final game of the week is Ottawa at Toronto, and there is still no line out on that game yet, because we don't know the status of Chad Kelly, and we don't know the status, that game's still, 5 days away on Sunday. So I think here, I want to make sure I get this right. Where's our picks? Here we go. So here's our picks from the last number of weeks. Do I got it here? Here we go. So here's our picks from the last number of weeks. And forgive me if it's so large here, but Zach, you are taking Winnipeg to cover 12. You are taking Calgary plus 5.5 points in BC. It's now at 6, but you locked it in at 5.5, which ain't too bad. I'm taking Montreal to cover 4.5, and then this Ottawa Toronto game is a question mark right now. It really comes down to Chad Kelly. I think Ottawa is a football team that is capable of winning, especially if Chad Kelly is not on the field. So I'll plunk a pick in there when we're ready to go. But look at this. A few weeks ago, Zach, you were absolutely crushing me. Okay. I was in the minuses through the first quarter of the season where you were winning, but then these last few weeks, you netted 0, or pardon me, you netted -2 to get to 0. And I got out of the basement with a couple shrewd picks. Calgary with a huge win in week 6, despite being the underdogs. And then
Shrewd, you're just being rude. Now you're just being rude.
Rude
Forget
and shrewd. Yeah, one or the other.
One is the root.
Rude. You've been putting major units down on your picks. Yeah, so you jumped out. You had a beautiful week 7, taking Edmonton to cover versus Winnipeg. It was a 14-point win. You had 14.5. So well done there. Yeah. Too bad you only put 1 on it. Toronto clobbered their opponent in week 7. I can't recall offhand who that was. But then you've been going big bets these past couple weeks with a win and a loss and a win and a loss. So you're remaining at 4. Yeah. I've just been hitting on my larger bets with BC to cover, Montreal to cover. So here we are. I'm now 5 units ahead of you in the SIA.com/bonfire head-to-head picks against the spread, ATS.
I'm throwing haymakers and they're not connecting. I'm whiffing on them and you're hitting them. You're hitting body shots. We'll see where we end up.
I usually hit. I hit the other kind of body shots. Oh, maybe I'm getting too old for that, but.
Is that what you were doing on Saturday when I couldn't get a hold of you?
Well, no, it was actually Friday after the Seabears game. I'm lying.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't able to go. I had to get on a bus first thing Saturday morning and go to Brandon with the Winnipeg Rifles junior football team. But after the Seabears game, this was the spot. Shannon's Irish Pub, 175 Carlton Street, just down the block from True North Square. Before the game, after the game, Seabears, Jets, Bombers, you name it. During the game, Friday for lunch, it is the spot. Go check them out. You can find more information, shannonsirishpub.ca. The 21 beers on tap, always close to my heart because they have a lot of great local choices. Many of your local favorites as well.
Yeah. And if I wasn't at the lake, watching the game here. I would have gone to Shannon, so we're still gonna have to do that up one of these days, Darren. Get out to Shannon's for an away game watch party. One thing I did want to say, and I hope Edmonton staff aren't watching this. I forgot to mention one of the concerns about the Bombers is that is the average of 32.5 yards a return in the win against BC. It's hard to come up with a concern when you spank a team 50 to 14. But Terry Williams had six kick returns for 195 yards, 32.5 yards a return. Is it just that game or is this a trend? Well, it's actually a trend because I had a gander at the stats pack you sent me, and the Bombers are second last in the league in giving up return average yardage with 25.1 yards per return.
Hmm.
So I don't know, man. Is that just because the killer Mike Miller is on the bench? Does CJ Sims with the Elks maybe punish us with that one? I don't know, but it does concern me, despite the fact that the offense and defense were just destroying the Lions. That is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I mean, like Craig Smith mentioned earlier, and like Don's mentioning here, Edmonton needs to do what Winnipeg did. What Winnipeg did, quick strikes early. Both of these teams
Yeah,
are paid to play football. I don't
yeah.
think you can write anybody off. It's the CFL, the crazy football league. The unexpected happens. So we're gonna get you prepared for it right here on Bonfire Midweek, as we always do. Looking ahead, looking back on the week that was, and then Chris Walby, of course, one of the sharpest, most entertaining minds in the Canadian Football League, and frankly, maybe even CFL history, will join me on Game Day Winnipeg on our pregame show Wednesday live at 3 o'clock, immediately following Winnipeg Sports Talk. If they go past 3, like WST goes past 3 o'clock sometimes, we're going to be going pretty much at 3 o'clock. Everybody will join us from that automatically on YouTube. But don't sleep on Edmonton. Don't sleep on anybody. The most dangerous is the wounded dog. Edmonton is
Or help.
incredibly wounded and
Yeah.
desperate. They have nothing to lose. They're starting their second-year Canadian quarterback. They made changes. They're coming off the bye week. Winnipeg's coming off a big win. You never know what's going to happen. You never, ever know.
No, you don't know in the CFL. I mean, and a team in the CFL is probably not going to go winless. It's never happened. They're going to win at some point, and they're going to win at home at some point. And antlers can be sharp and spiky, and they can do some damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to do enough damage on Saturday to make Edmonton prevail, Darren. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this game is a little bit closer at halftime than people think.
Yep. Yep. So keep that in mind when you're maybe throwing a little sprinkle down on sia.com/bonfire. Use that exclusive link and you'll get a very tasty 100% bonus on your account. I think it's up to like $1,000. If you deposit 1,000,
Yeah.
bet 1,000, then you'll get 1,000 in bet credits, which is pretty great. I don't think anybody can hold a candle to that right now, but you can deposit even $20 and they'll give you 100% bonus. I think that's the minimum.
And
So
it's a Canadian company too, and I
it
think it's an
is.
indigenous owned company. That's
That's
pretty
right.
cool. Two pretty cool qualities about SIA. In addition to the fact that they're associated with yours truly here.
Yep. Yep. But hey, it's gonna be a great week in the CFL. You can see the schedule up there. Sask at Montreal. I think will be an interesting game with the Riders traveling to the new
Mhm.
home of Fajardo and Jason Moss. Calgary at BC. The last time Calgary went to BC was week 1, if I'm not mistaken. BC absolutely dominated them. Calgary hanging tight right now in the standings, trying to keep their season alive and keep pace with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who were coming off an emotional win. And then Ottawa at Toronto. Big questions around Chad Kelly. So very intriguing CFL Week 10. And hey, we're gonna break it down for you. Here on Bonfire Midweek next week. Of course,
Yes, sir.
we got to
And
talk
we'll
about
actually
Chris
be back.
Streveler before we go, Zach.
Oh yeah, of course.
Larry Ward
That's a
says,
tough
"Where
one.
is Chris Streveler going to end up?" cut from the New York Jets this past week. The Jets got a new offensive coordinator this year. I can't recall his name offhand, but he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos last year. That is the new OC of the New York Jets. And Streveler suffered a thumb injury in training camp, smacking it on a helmet. It is on his throwing hand. So the injury combined with a new OC and obviously Aaron Rodgers there now, they moved on from Zach and now to Aaron Rodgers, maybe a new OC looking for a different style of quarterback as a backup to Aaron Rodgers. But that leaves Streveler a free agent right now. What's going to happen, Zach?
Well, I don't think he's coming back to the CFL anytime soon. I think he's going to wait and see if he can get another opportunity. And now he's already got enough. He's vested, I think they call it. So he's going to get that NFL pension, which is like 20,000 US dollars a year. But
That's where it starts. Yeah.
um, I I don't see him coming back to CFL anytime soon. Do you, DB?
No, I don't. I don't understand what the benefit for Chris Streveler would be. Like if he's desperate to play a game, if he's desperate to do that, then maybe he would consider coming to Canada mid-season. But
Yeah.
one, I don't see why he would be desperate to play and get smacked around because we know the physical brand that he plays. Two, it's very difficult to have a team agree to pay you and bring you in and then agree that, well, okay, yeah, if, the Cincinnati Bengals call, we'll just let you go. The
Yeah.
NFL window is during the off season of the CFL that allows players under contract to sign a futures contract in the NFL, like December, January, that time frame, right? Late in the NFL season, after the CFL season. If Chris Streveler signed a contract with whoever in the CFL, let's just say Edmonton, okay? If he signs a contract, he's expected to be with Edmonton for the rest of the year, right? Through October. What does that do for Chris Streveler outside of some bucks that I don't think he really needs right now? It's
Hmm.
wear and tear on the body, and it is less opportunity to go work out for other teams. Because if tomorrow morning an NFL team, say the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm just throwing that team out there just randomly.
Yeah.
If they call tomorrow morning, Streveler can be on a plane and be there that afternoon, right? I
Yeah.
don't know if Cincy's that easy to get to. Maybe two
No,
flights.
but he also has to rehab that thumb, right? Like
Right.
he's not going to be playing right away. He doesn't know the playbook of teams. It's not exactly he doesn't exactly have a live wire for an arm. It's he doesn't have the greatest arm. Let's be honest.
Accuracy
Um,
versus
he has some
strength.
accuracy issues.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't see it. It's too bad though. It's too bad he got cut. But who would want to hang out with Aaron Rodgers anyway? The guy is such a narcissist. And I'm saying that from a clinical perspective. I know what I'm talking about, folks.
You are
Not
a
just my fan
certified
card here.
you are a certified therapist, Zach.
I am a certified therapist. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're looking for a therapist, folks,
But a certified
come see
therapist
me.
would
Just
also, of course, you're saying it tongue in cheek because we're talking about a pro athlete here on a
yeah.
sports talk show, right? You would need to meet the individual face to face to
Oh, I
make
can't
a
diagnose them.
proper
So
assessment. Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Uh,
but I can. Yeah. Anyway,
but
enough of that.
my point about Chris Streveler is, uh, if he signs in the CFL in 2023, that negates his opportunity to go work out for a team in short order. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to just fly to, like, let's say the thumb heals, 2 weeks go by, the thumb heals. He wouldn't be able to just arrive in a day and work out for a team or meet with a GM or
Yeah.
meet with a coach and an OC and a quarterback's coach. He wouldn't be able to do that because he would be in Canada playing. And I don't
Yeah.
see how that serves him. Chris Streveler has been in the NFL now for a few years. And that's where
Yeah.
he wants to stay. That's where every football player wants to be. It is called the league. Players call it the league. I was in the league. I want to get
Yeah.
back to the league. Now, there's other players that, I shouldn't say there's other players. Players love playing in the CFL. Once they get here and they see what it is, so many of them fall in love with it. The reality is, uh, playing in your home country, playing in the number one league in the world is different. The money, the opportunities outside of football, all of that, right? So I don't see why Chris Streveler would come to the CFL in 2023. If there isn't a single phone call between an NFL team and Chris Streveler's agent for the next 8 months, then I could see him coming to Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe he wants to start next year, right? Like maybe he wants to be a starter. That's important enough to him. He's made enough money down south,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, we'll see. We forgot to mention Mr. Kolaris was the top-rated player in the CFL by Pro Football Focus,
Yeah.
which was pretty darn sweet. I think he had that honor in week 2 or something against Saskatchewan, so he has it again. He's had what 3 or 4 300-yard games in a row. The guy's just on fire, buddy, and I think he's going to bring that fire to Edmonton. I really do. I think I expect the Bombers to not take Edmonton lightly and to be executing again at a high level. You're right. They didn't play their best game against Edmonton before, only beating them by 14. Um, so we'll see. It should be exciting, and I look forward to seeing you and the big guy tomorrow. And
Yes.
maybe you and the big guy should hit up Shannon's for an away game watch party on Thursday. Maybe bring Slats out there, Taylor
Yeah.
Allen, the Hammer, all the stars.
Yeah. Well, I think the Hammer is on holidays right now. He might even be out
Oh,
of
okay.
town. I'm not sure who's going to Edmonton for the Winnipeg Free Press, but um, yeah, somebody will be traveling there. You know who else is traveling to Edmonton this week?
Who?
The Winnipeg Rifles kick off their 2023
Ooh,
season this
nice.
coming Sunday. You can watch all of those games on cjfltv.com. I'll be calling the home
Sweet.
games this year. Hashtag Rifle Up. Big season, big expectations for Winnipeg's junior football team playing in the Prairie Football Conference of the Canadian Junior Football League. Regina, Saskatchewan, or Saskatoon, Edmonton has 2 teams, and Calgary has a team. So if you're interested, riflesfootball.com, go check it out. And you can watch the games on cjfltv.com. Or you can also head down to their beautiful brand new field at Maple Grove Park, St. Vital Mustangs Field. The Rifles have a brand new turf field, new bleachers, new lights and fencing. It is awesome. Outstanding first class facility there for junior football. Big thanks to, or of course, thanks to all the 3 levels of government in making that happen for our elite amateur athletes from junior football, really all the way down to the tykes that play, minor football here in Manitoba, which is pretty great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
Multi-talented DB. You call games on. You call basketball games. You call
No, it's
football
not
games.
talent. It's just passion, man. That's all it is. So much
No.
fun.
Hey, I never called you talented. Let's just be clear about that.
What did you
I
just
just
say
said
then?
you're passionate. I'm just bugging you, buddy.
You're
You're
trying
being
too hard.
modest,
You're
and I'm
trying too hard to get
uh,
under my skin. You can't get it. You're at the lake right now. You should be kicking back
yeah,
the way I'm feeling right now. Just, enjoying mid-season. It's the best time of the year, if you ask me. Hockey is upcoming. Tons of great
yeah.
CFL football. James Murphy going into the Ring of Honor, one of my favorites growing
Yes.
up. And the Bombers, very, very positive outlook suddenly following that huge win last week.
Yeah.
Now going to Edmonton.
Can't wait, buddy. Can't wait.
Yep. Should be good. Okay. Final word to you, as I always do, Zach.
Sayonara, everybody.
Have a great week.